Good morning, welcome to Cornerstone. We are so glad that you are here today. If you could please find your seats, it's time for the morning announcements. If this is your first or your second time here at Cornerstone, would you please meet us at the Guest Center, located directly at the back doors of the auditorium? We'd love the chance to meet you, get to know you a little bit better, and give you a gift to show you how much we appreciate you being here with us today. So thank you. Here at Cornerstone, we love God, we love others, and one of the ways we do that is through our giving. If you would like to give, you can either do so online using the Church Center app, or you can physically give it in a giving box located in the back of the auditorium. Because you give, we can serve. If you are going to kids camp, make sure you're here tomorrow at the church, 8:30 a.m. Again, 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Super Summer Tuesdays is an event for uncommon students, going to 6th grade up to 12th grade. It's a time where we get together, we hang out, we play games, have fun, grow closer together as a youth group. For more information on these and to stay up to date with our times and what we're doing and where we're going, you can always check out our Facebook group, or we have a Remind text group that you can join as well. Hearts at Home is coming up this Tuesday at 6 p.m. It'll be hosted at Terry Hopwood's house. For more information, check out the women's group on our Church Center app. If you're a high school or college graduate, we want to see you here next week. We want to take time to honor you for all you accomplished. So make sure you're here next week as we honor our grads. And that's it for the announcements. For more information and to stay up to date with what's going on here at Cornerstone, always check out Church Center or a paper bulletin located out in the lobby. We love you. Have an amazing day.
Good morning, Cornerstone. Welcome. We're glad to have you here with us today. Would you please stand and worship with us? I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb until I met you. I was breathing but not alive, and all my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my name and I ran out like crazy. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day.
Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus, for your freedom. Oh, let's give him some praise today. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, thank you, Lord. In the darkness we were waiting, without hope, without light, till come heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes, to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from the throne of endless glory, to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom coming, and to reconcile the lost, to redeem the whole creation. You did not despise the cross, for even in your suffering, you saw to the other side, knowing this was our salvation. Jesus, for our sake you died. We sing praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. In the morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till that stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who come to the Father are restored. And the church of Christ was born, then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of old shall not kneel, shall not faint. By his blood and in his name, and in his freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Oh,
as we go into this next song, every day I think about how Jesus paid it all for me, for us. He didn't just pay a small sum, but he paid everything that we could be with him. He paid it all. And that's just something that touches my heart every time I think about it, that he thought that we were worth it, that he thought that each of us was worth his whole life. He was hung on a cross for us. And I know sometimes I don't think that highly of myself, but the Lord thought it was important. And so today as we sing this song, we just want to praise him and just realize that Jesus paid it all. And this Bridget says, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. And so today, let's just really praise him because he did. He paid our debts and he raised us. He's given us eternal life, but he's also given us a hope. He's raised us from our fear and from our depression and from our anxiety. And there's a lot of ways in which the Lord gives us hope from those things. He's raised us up. And so today, let's just sing that out, that Jesus paid it all. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. 'Cause Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. 'Cause Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. He washed it white as snow. Yes, he washed it white as snow. Oh, he washed me. Oh, he loved me. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. And when before the throne I stand in him complete, Jesus died my soul to save. My lips shall still repeat, 'cause Jesus. Jesus paid it all washed it white as snow. Jesus paid, 'cause Jesus paid it
all to him I owe.
Oh, thank you, Lord. Sin had left a crimson stain. He washed it white as snow. Yes, he washed it white as snow.
Church, let's take a minute before I pray, and let's just take like 30 seconds and let's search our hearts here and consider. We're singing about how Jesus' sacrifice on the cross allows us to have forgiveness of sins. And we all constantly need to be in that place where we are evaluating and looking at our lives and confessing and repenting. And so let's take 30 seconds here. I want you to think about your life, and I want you to take a moment here now to just confess whatever you bring into this room. Something that happened this past week. Maybe you've been engaged in some kind of behavior you know is sinful. It's counter to the way of the Lord. I just want you to, in your own heart, with you and the Lord, speaking to him directly right now, just confess that sin and give it to him. Talk to him. Ask for forgiveness. Ask that he would cleanse you and take away that unrighteousness, and that he would make you whole. Let's just take 30 seconds as a collective group here and do that. Jesus, if we're honest here, we recognize that all of us come into this room with something that we are ashamed of or we regret from this previous week, maybe this morning even. Father, we come to you and we recognize that you are good and loving, and you've provided a way for us to have restored relationship with you. You've provided the way for us to have forgiveness of sins. And that's through what we've just been singing about, how Jesus came and he paid it all for us. And so we want, as a response to what we've been singing about, we want our first response to be, oh God, forgive us, cleanse us from our sin and our unrighteousness. But we don't want to just stay in that. We also want to secondly respond by doing what we've been doing, praising you. Oh, praise the one who came and offered themselves on our behalf. We praise you, Jesus, because the fact is now we can have restored relationship with the Father. So may our lives be lives of praise and adoration to you. Jesus, as we've sung about the Father's goodness and your sacrificial love, I pray now that we, as we've come in contact with that through our singing, make that something that is realized deep down in our hearts. As we prepare ourselves to look at your word today, I pray that you would challenge us and you would change us and you would convict us. Speak to us, each one of us today, what it is that we need to hear. We come here today as your people, as individuals who are broken, but also even collectively. So heal us as a church. Forgive us for the things that we have failed to do, and use us, God, for greater days ahead for your glory, we pray. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. God bless you. You can take a seat. Thanks so much for being here today. It's great to see each one of you. Thanks, worship team, for leading us. And thank you for just taking a few minutes to respond. I think it's really important for us to realize that our singing is not just a one-way experience. When we sing and worship and we spend those times, it's also very appropriate for us to spend some time responding to the message of the songs we're singing and to what the Spirit is leading us to do. So I want to thank you for responding in that way. A couple things really quick. First, at the beginning of the message, or the beginning of the service, you saw the announcement video. And in the announcement video, it mentioned that today is the Royal Family Kids Camp training. We're gonna have 6 hours of amazing training that's gonna happen at noon. For those of us who are going to Royal Family Kids Camp, yeah, I'm getting the fist pump over there by Darla. And we've had a couple people ask, if you have not been told that you need to be here, you do not need to be a part of this. There are some people who are coming in the evenings that do not need to be a part of the training. You have been told, right, that you need to be a part of the, right, Darla? Yes, if you have been told if you need to be a part of the training, and that's taking place at noon. Now, I mention that as a reminder, but I also mention that because I like like to, just before we get into the message, I'd like to remind you and thank you for your faithful giving. The line we say all the time here is, because you give, we can serve. And so when you give to Cornerstone, you give to things to help us make things like Royal Family Kids Camp, this camp that we do every year for children that are in the foster care system. You help us make that possible. And so I just want to say thank you for that. You're not just kind of like given to just like an entity or like a nonprofit, religious organization, or to keep lights on or something. You're giving to make a difference in the Riverbend area and beyond. And so that's going to be realized at the beginning of August when we do this camp. And so I just want to say thank you for your faithfulness in giving. The other thing I need to mention, and she doesn't know that I'm going to do this, I don't think, but next week is the week that we're going to honor our graduates. But we have a graduate who's here who's not going to be here next week. And I want to, she's like, oh no. Yes. Dr. Kylie Linkman is in the room. Can we just express our appreciation? There she is. Hey, we're so proud of you. Doctorate in physical therapy, right? Yep. So just super proud. We didn't get to clap for you next week, so we're clapping for you now. And we will be honoring our grads next week, so we're excited for you. Congratulations. Well, it is summer break for our kids. School is out, and our kids tomorrow are heading to Breakaway Kids Camp, and then in a few weeks, our youth will be going to teen camp. It's going to be amazing. One of the things that my wife and I always did with our kids, and they're still going to camp now, but when they were younger, we would give them spending money at camp. I'm sure parents, you've done that. There's always the question of how much you're going to give them and this and that. But what we always enjoyed about this was our boys spent their spending money differently, and it really showed their personalities. I've got two sons, Parker and Kent. Parker, we would give them the same amount of money, but at the end of the week, Parker would come back with money still in his pocket, okay? Parker is a saver. He doesn't like to spend. Kent, on the other hand, spent all of his money by Tuesday, okay? He was done. He was like, ice cream on me, let's go. Like, that's just totally different personalities, That's just totally different. So one year, I was super proud of Parker. One year, Parker, ahead of time, he knew that there was a certain energy drink that was popular that wasn't being sold at camp. And so before camp, he bought a case of this energy drink, and then he brought it to camp and sold it at a marked up price. I think he came back with more money than he left with that year. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know how your habits are when you have spending money or your kids' habits. But in our text today, we're going to be looking at a parable that Jesus told in Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30, and it's about a man who gives money to his servants. Now, it's not camp money, and that's not spending money at camp, and the servants aren't going anywhere, but instead, it's the master who's going somewhere. So he's going to leave, but he gives money to his servants. We are in a sermon series called Kingdom Come, and throughout this series, we've been looking at Matthew chapter 24 and Matthew chapter 25. And throughout both of these chapters, Jesus is talking about future events. He was talking earlier about the future, at that time, future destruction of the temple that happened in 70 AD. But then he was also talking about the end of the world and when he is going to return. And so in the last couple of sections before where we're at here, Jesus has told a variety of different parables that illustrate and teach us about what it's going to be like when he returns at the end. And there's been some themes that we've seen. We've seen that Jesus' return is going to be unexpected. And so we are told in these previous parables that we need to be ready and we need to keep watch. Today's parable kind of extends that theme, but it shifts a little bit in its focus. It's not so much about the unexpected time, but it's talking about what is done within that time frame from when he returns at the end. And so let's take a look here in verse 14. It says this. It says, again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. So Jesus starts this out by saying again, and if you go back to the previous parable, he was introducing the parable. So he's just introducing the second parable here. And remember, parables are simple stories that Jesus used that were intended to teach a truth about the kingdom of God. These are not historical, real events in that sense, but they are based on real life kinds of things, cultural concepts. And so they have symbolic meaning, but we don't want to read too deep into that. We don't want to allegorize every single detail here, but there are some symbols here. But this parable here is pretty straightforward. There's a master, and there are servants, and then is wealth that is talked about. And so the master is Jesus, the servants are believers or followers of Jesus, and the wealth represents responsibilities or investments that were made into those servants. And so when this verse here says that this master entrusted his wealth to his servants, that might sound a little strange to us because we wouldn't think of a servant having that kind of role. In the first century, it was common for servants to have positions of influence and even to one extent or another, authority. But what is unique about this parable is the amount of money that this master is entrusting into his servants. Look at verse 15 with me. It says this, "To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. And then he went on his journey." Okay, so I want to take just a minute to talk about something that I think is important for us to recognize about the Bible and our translations today. So in our translation, we're looking at the New International Version. This is the version I grew up with. That's probably the main reason why I use it on Sundays. I like it. I'm familiar with it. It's a good, solid translation. The New International Version translates one Greek word as bags of gold 3 different times in here. And if you have a different translation in the room, King James, for instance, or the ESV, it's going to translate bags of gold as one word. It's going to translate it as the word talent. If you have the New Living Translation, the New Living Translation is going to translate those words as bags of silver. So what is going on here? Why do we have these different words? Well, the underlying word that's in the original language here is the word talenton, or as we would say in English, talent. The problem is when you're translating something like this, and if you were just to take that word and make it talent, the problem is in English we have a word talent, and it means ability or skill, right? Someone is talented at singing. But the Greek word talent there doesn't mean ability or skill. It is a measurement of weight. Okay? So it's a totally different thing. It's like we would say pound or ounces or something. It's a measurement of weight. So the question then becomes, how much did that weigh and what is that worth? So there's a couple issues with that. We have an idea of what a talent weighed, but we're not exactly sure. It's anywhere from 50 to 75 pounds, okay? And then the question is, what is being weighed? Is this gold, or is this silver, or is this something else? So instead of translating it in a way that could be confusing with talent, the New International Version translate this bags of gold because, come on, who doesn't want a bag of gold? All right, a bag of gold means lots of money, okay? So with that said, we can kind of guess at what a talent might have been worth today, or a bag of gold in this context. If you look through the church app and the sermon notes there, you're gonna find a bunch of different scholars have a bunch of different ideas. But at minimum, a talent or 1 bag of gold would be maybe $250,000 to $300,000, okay? So this is a significant amount of money that this master is investing into his servants. Now, in addition to this, it's really interesting, I think we need to note this, that what this master does is he gives these 3 different servants 3 different amounts. He's not just arbitrarily doing this either. It says that he gave them each according to his ability. So, apparently, this master knows his servants. He knows the skill set of the first servant, and so he gives him 5. He knows the skill set and the aptitude of the second servant, so he gives him 2, and then on to the one that he gives 1 bag of gold or talent to. He gives them based on what he knows about them. Verses 16 and 18. "So the man who received the 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more bags. Also, the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more, but the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money." So This first servant here, he jumps right to it, and he immediately goes out and begins working. Now, the story doesn't tell us if any instructions were given to these servants, but regardless, this servant knows what is expected of him, and so he immediately goes out. This is an example of enthusiastic discipleship, all right? This guy is eager to do the work of the master. And so both the first and the second, they get out, they put the money to work, and the result of that is that both of their amounts are doubled. Now, the third servant takes a totally different approach, and he just hides it in a hole. Now, again, this is one of those things that might seem kind of strange to us, but remember, in the first century, they didn't have safes like we do today. All right? I mean, they had houses that were made out of dried mud, and you could literally bore a hole through the side and get in, even if a door was locked. So there was not a real easy way to secure something that was valuable. So the solution in the first century was figure out a place that only you know and then bury it there. And that was actually a common way and a very accepted way to keep something safe. The key here, of course, with these servants is that there's a contrast being made. In these parables, sometimes Jesus will say something shocking, but oftentimes there's also contrasts that he's making. And we've got two servants who go to work, and we have one who digs a hole. We have two men who invest and gain, and the other man goes and hides. And so the first two are motivated by gaining, and the last was motivated by preventing loss. And so Jesus continues this parable in verse 19. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. You know, as I mentioned, Jesus is teaching this in a larger block of teaching where he's talking about the end of the age and his return, and we need to remember that context. Jesus is teaching here about the end of time, and all of these parables are reminding us that this is an unexpected event where where it's an unknown time when he's going to return. And the focus on this parable, however, is that he's going to return after what seems like a long time. It's going to be ample time for these guys to get their work done with these bags of gold. And when he comes, he's going to settle accounts with them. This here is a picture of Jesus returning to the world as judge. And when Jesus returns, he's going to come and he's going to settle accounts with his servants. And he's basically going to come and say, what have you been doing with the bags of gold, with the investment or the resource that I have given to you? Verse 20 and 21. So the man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. And his master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. So the master, what he does is he gives 3 rewards to this servant here. And the first is he just praises him verbally. He says, well done, good and faithful servant. Now, in those days, it was not uncommon for a servant to be given some responsibility, but it is fairly rare that they would receive this kind of verbal praise from their master. And what this is showing us that this master is ready and willing and desirous to applaud and speak kindly to his servants, to encourage them and to build them up. That's the first reward. The second reward is greater responsibility. Now, I love this because he says, you have been faithful with a few things. Now, this guy here is the one that had 5 talents. We're talking probably over $1 million. Okay, maybe we have someone in the room that doesn't think this, but for me, $1 million, that's not a few things, right? That's a lot of things. That's a huge thing. But for this master, apparently, he's got a great deal more resources. So he says, look, you've been faithful with a few, just $1 million. What's $1 million? Just a few. You've been faithful with that. But now I'm going to make you responsible for many things. This is like a window into the vast resources of this master. And it's kind of counterintuitive because if we're going to get a reward, how is the reward greater responsibility? But we need to understand the bigger picture here. This is about a master wanting to develop his servants. He's not concerned with the bottom line and the numbers, as we'll see in a minute here. He wants to make these servants better and more capable. And so he says, look, I'm going to give you greater responsibility. You've met that task. I've got more for you. And then the third reward is the master's joy. He says, come and share in the master's happiness. He doesn't say, hey, let's go have a party for you. Hey, you're gonna share in the master's wealth. He says, I want you to share with the joy that I am experiencing. He's inviting them into a greater relationship with him. Because if you're gonna share joy with someone, you need to know them so intimately, so closely that their excitement becomes your excitement. That their passion and their joys become your passion and your joy. And that's what the master is inviting them into. He says, it's not just that I'm happy, I want you to experience this too. I want a deeper relationship with you. And so these are high rewards and accolades that he's giving to this first servant. But it's not just for the first servant. Look at what he says to the second. The second man, the man with 2 bags of gold, also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold, and see, I have gained 2 more. And his master replied. Look at this and contrast this with what he said in verse 21. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The reward is exactly the same for the guy with 2 bags of gold as it was with the guy with 5 bags of gold. The rewards are the same. Why? Because the master is more concerned with quality, not quantity. Both men put their money to work. Now, they both saw an amount that was doubled. But he wasn't happier with the first servant than he was with the second. He didn't say to the second guy, man, that guy made 5. Why did you only make 2? No, he recognized and he was happy that they put the investment to work and they both received an increase. But then the third servant comes up. It says this in verse 24. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. Now, do you notice the shift in tone here, right? Let's just stop here and consider what this man is saying. Is what this man is saying, does it ring true? It's obviously ringing true to him, but does it ring true to what we have seen from the master up to this point? This servant does not have a favorable view of his master, and he describes him here as hard, which is a word that can be translated strict or harsh or cruel. Think about this. This master gave him, it was only 1 bag of gold, but $300,000, and then he left on a long trip, okay? How hard and how much of a cruel taskmaster is that? The servant says that the master harvests fields that he didn't plant. Now, what is that about? To me, it sounds like he's kind of accusing him. There's a couple things he might be suggesting. Is he suggesting that he's stealing from someone else's land? Hey, you didn't plant that and you're just taking it? Maybe he's saying that. Or maybe he's saying you didn't plant it because your servants did and you're reaping the rewards of what they've done on your behalf. Either way, this third servant does not have a very good view of his master. He's suggesting that the master is unjust, unfair, overbearing. And maybe you've had a boss like this. I'm sure it would not be your current boss right now or anything, right? But I'm sure you've had, I remember when I worked in retail in high school, I worked at a place and we had these headsets, and my managers would always be like screaming in my ear about sell more, sell more, sell more. I remember one rainy day in particular where there was like 3 people in the store all day, and it was like every 10 minutes, we're not selling enough. And I'm like, there's no one in here. But yeah, it's like, and in my mind, they're just in the back, office every 5 minutes. They're just twiddling their thumbs and then they're yelling at us. I'm sure they had other stresses that were going on. You probably experienced something like that. But is what this guy is saying true or not? It's what the servant is implying here. And so what does he do? Verse 25, he says, so I was afraid, and I went out and I hid your gold in the ground. See, here, what belongs to you. And so the servant blames his inaction on fear. He's probably afraid he's gonna lose the money, right? He's probably afraid if he does anything with it, he's gonna lose out. Maybe he looked around at the other servants who seem more capable than him. And he goes, well, obviously that guy is gonna get 5 bags because he's the wonder boy, right? Look, that guy got 2. He's better than me also. I'm just a 1 bag guy. And I know that if I try to do anything with this, then I'm sunk. I'm gonna lose it, I'm gonna fail, and it's just not gonna go my way. And so maybe he was afraid of losing the money. But I think he was probably also afraid of the master. He calls him hard. I think he's afraid of what the master is going to do. And so he's trying here to justify his action, or rather he's trying to justify his inaction. And he says, so hey, here's what's yours. I didn't lose anything. I'm just giving you back the exact amount that you gave to me. And his attitude, in a sense, is that this great, wealthy master doesn't need any of his help. Hey, look, I'm just a lowly servant. You're the big master guy. All I'm doing is making sure I give you back what's yours. I don't want a part of this. You know, look, I'm a one talent guy. I'm a one bag of gold type guy, and I have nothing to offer you. Or maybe he doesn't want to offer anything to the master. Maybe all of this you're a hard man stuff is a cover for his laziness and his selfishness. One scholar said laziness, not lowliness, drafted his plans. So when he says, oh, you're the great master and I'm just giving it back to you, I got nothing to offer, maybe it wasn't just that he was trying to fake humility, but it was just that he was lazy. Or maybe he didn't like his master and I don't want to earn one more penny for you. And the master replies in verse 26, you wicked and lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. You see, the master knows that this isn't about fear. It's about what this servant thinks of the master. And the master turns the servant's words back on him. And he says, look, if you think that I'm really as hard and cold and demanding as I am and expecting an increase where I don't deserve it, then at the very least, it would have been very easy for you after all this time I was away. You could have gone and brought it to the money changers there and you could have gotten some interest off of that but you didn't even do that. You didn't even do the simple thing that you could do. You see, the master isn't the one with the character flaw here. The servant is the one with the character flaw. The servant chose to do nothing with this great gift and responsibility that he was given. And not only did he not want to work, I think he dislikes the very idea of trying to help this master out. And so more than laziness, this is selfishness. And he can't see what the intention of the master is here. He sees this master's investment, this bag of gold, as an invasion of his life, an unwelcomed expectation that's placed on him. Wait, now I got to do something with this? You expect me to do something for you? So the master responds. He says, oh, you don't want it? Okay. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. Why? I mean, think about this. Apparently, the 10 bag guy now, the guy that had 5 and now he's got 10, apparently he's keeping this, right? This is crazy because he's the one that has it. And why would he say give one so now he has 11 if he was just going to give it back to the master? So apparently this master isn't concerned about the bottom line. What he's trying to do is invest in these servants so they can elevate and they can have greater responsibility. Verse 29 and 30. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. And whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So there's a promise of blessing for those who faithfully steward the resources that have been given to them. Good stewardship brings about greater responsibility and blessing. But for those who don't, even what they have will be taken from them. And remember, we identified these servants as people who are followers of Jesus. Let that sink in for a minute about the responsibility that we've been given. See, the servant that's being punished here is not being punished because he fell into some big, huge moral sin. He didn't steal from the master. He didn't engage in any kind of immoral behavior. His failure was simply that he refused to use the resource that was entrusted to him. For followers of Jesus, this should be a very sobering moment for us. We've been talking about the urgency and the expectation of his return, but now we have a clear warning right towards us as followers of Jesus about the resources that we've been entrusted with. You know, when we gave our boys that spending money for camp, we did it without strings attached. You know, when Parker came back with money left over, we weren't upset about it. And when we learned that Kent used all his money by Tuesday, we might have talked with him about better money management, but we weren't upset about it, right? We gave it to them to use however they wanted. Now, there are times when we give our boys money that we want money back. You know, there's times when, you know, they'll want to go like to fast food or something. And like, if all I have is a 20, like, that's great. I'll give you a 20, but you're not spending $20 on tacos at Taco Bell. I want some of this back, right? You know what I'm talking about? There are different expectations. And my point is that when it comes to their camp spending money, the boys use their money differently because they're different personalities. And that's okay. In the same way, church, the kingdom of heaven is not a one-size-fits-all. Dale Bruner puts it really well. He says, in the kingdom of Christ, not all are created equal. That strikes us as odd, but listen here. He says, our call to salvation is equal, but our calls to service are apportioned by a wise Lord's knowledge of each servant's ability. This is really important for us to see here. Every one of us is given something, but that something that we're given is different for each of us. You know, at first glance, this parable seems to be all about work, and it is to an extent. Two servants, they took the bags of gold and they turned a profit out of it. And we might be tempted to just stop right there and say, the moral of this story is to work hard and to prove yourself, to make something of your life. But the heart of this parable, I mean, there's truth to that. We need to be workers in the kingdom. We need to work on behalf of the master. But there's a deeper foundational idea here. It's about this parable is more about invitation, I think. And it's more causing us to ask the question, how do we view the master? What I find so shocking or stunning about this parable is the way these three different servants view the master. First view the master and this investment that he made with these bags of gold, they view this as an invitation into something greater. But the third guy, he sees this as like a challenge to him, an examination of who he is. He views it in a negative sense. He views it as an obligation that's thrust upon him, an investigation of whether or not he can add up. And the point is at the end of time when Jesus returns, it's not that there's a final exam that we all have to pass. Like we have to prove ourselves or we have to add up to the people around us. No, the point of the parable is that Jesus is inviting you to become who he created you to be. You may look around and say, look, I'm just a one bag of gold person. And what do I have to offer in light of all of these other people, the 5 bag of gold? There's a 20 bag of gold person over there. There's this kind of person over here. I've got nothing, so I'm just gonna not do anything then. If you have that mindset, you run the risk of when the master returns, him saying, throw him out into the darkness where there's gnashing of teeth. We have been given a great resource. And you may think it's just 1 bag of gold, but it's still $300,000. You have been given something precious. And your view of the master will determine if you're going to be a good steward of that resource or not. If you're going to see this as some sort of invasion of or something that's thrust upon you that's unfair or that you have to like earn, if you're going to view it that way, you're going to miss out. But if you see this as an invitation from the master saying, I've entrusted you with, and it could be an actual talent that we talk about in English, like an ability or a skill. God has given some of you incredible skills and talents and abilities to do things. It's like the bag of gold. Are you going to leverage that for yourself? Are you going to hide it in a hole? Or are you going to use it for the glory and allow God to see that increase? Some of you have been given great intellect, a great ability to communicate. Some of you are relational. You can reach out and you've never met a stranger. You're friends with everybody. Some of you have a profound ability to make money. But would it be a shame if each of those people were just to take that resource, that investment, that bag of gold or that thing that we have, wouldn't it just be a shame if we all just kind of hit it in the ground and said, I'm just waiting it out? Because what this shows us is it shows us like a theology or an approach to the Lord where it's just like, well, I just don't want to do anything wrong, so I'm just going to stay here and I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm not going to do anything else. No, discipleship, following Jesus sometimes takes risk and stepping out in faith, realizing that the Lord's given you something so that you can leverage it to make a difference for the kingdom. And in doing that, not only will you find the well done, good and faithful servant, but you'll find, look, I've got greater responsibility for you as well. And you get to experience the joy of the Creator as well. And so today, I don't know if you are in here and you feel like you're a one-bag Christian. You got just one thing to offer or nothing. Maybe you feel like you look around, maybe you think, man, these people are more talented, more whatever. They got more skills, they got more resources. I want to encourage you today. Everyone has been given something. Everyone's something is different. So use that on behalf of the master, and you will find greater fulfillment and joy and responsibility than you could ever dare imagine or hope. That's the purpose, because he wants to graduate you into that next level. That was the purpose of these gifts. And the amazing thing is he let those guys keep those talents. And so today, church, when we talk about like the end of the world and his return, as this parable is kind of in the theme of talking about, we need to recognize, what are we doing now with that bag of gold or bags of gold that we received? Are we leveraging it for the kingdom, or are we keeping it for ourselves? Are we hiding it? Are we living selflessly, or are we living selfishly? And so today I want to leave you with this thought. View the master's investment as an invitation. View the master's investment into your life as an invitation. He's not trying to invade your life. He's not trying to, interrogate you or to examine you like with some final exam at the end of time. No, he wants to invite you, saying, look, I'm giving this to you. If you would just lean into that and accept it and use it for my glory, there is so much joy, there is so much blessing, and there's so much increase. And you can make a difference right here and right now. You can make a difference right here and right now. Don't shortchange yourself. Don't be like that third servant. I think sometimes it's easy for us to say we want to be like those first two servants. But I think if we're really honest, sometimes we feel like the third, don't we? I don't have much to offer. Church, let's not be like that third servant, but let's be the ones where when the master returns, he says, well done, good and faithful servant. I got something for you here. Let's pray. Jesus, we put our trust in you, and we recognize that you've given us great gifts. It's talents, abilities. Some of us have the gift of time. We have the gift of being able to be relational and friendly to people. Some of us have the gift of making money and investing. Some of us, we have skills to sing. God, there's all sorts of different artistic abilities that you've given to us in this room. And sometimes we can see how these skills or these investments that you've given to us, we can see how they get into the bigger picture of your kingdom, and other times we can't. Sometimes we feel like we are just a small, insignificant servant compared to the people around us. But help us to recognize that it's not about whether we have one bag of gold or 2 bags or 5 or 20 or 100. It's about what we do with the amount that you've allotted to us in your wisdom and in your goodness. And so, Father, I pray that each one of us would see the real picture of who this master is, a good, loving master who's investing in us, and not this hard taskmaster that the third servant saw. Help us to see you for who you are, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Would you stand with us? Today, I want to encourage you, if you're far from the Lord, you don't have a relationship with him, I want you to recognize today that the master is good. There's a lot of people in this world who will look at God and say he's just kind of a mean ogre in the sky, demanding that we dot our I's and cross our T's, and we got to get all these things right. But if that's the view of the master that you have, I just want to say that's not the biblical view of the master. We have a master who's loving and says, look, I've given you something. And if you see that and you accept that invitation, I can transform your life. So if you're far from him today, just simply call out to him and say, oh, Jesus, I want to follow after you. Would you forgive me? But if you're a believer in the room and you've been sitting on that resource that the Lord's given to you, if you've hid it in the ground, or if you've selfishly just used it for yourself, today, let's make a commitment to take the resource that he's given to us and let's turn that around and use it for his glory. So the worship team's gonna lead us in a song that says, I will make room for you. I think it's a great song to end in this passage. Will you make room for the Lord to do what he wants in you and through you? Will you become who he designed you to be? Or are you gonna just kick against that and try to become who you wanna be? Let's be the people that say, oh, we wanna make room for you to do what you wanna do in our lives. Worship team, would you lead us?
Oh, we're here for you. is where I lay it down. Every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. Every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Here is where I lay it down. Every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. And this is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. Every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Do whatever you want to. I'm open. I give myself to you, Lord. I will make room. I will make room. Oh, shake up, shake up, shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Yes, your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. So I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Yes, I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. I will do, Lord. And I will make room for you to do whatever whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Oh, here is where I lay it down. You are all I'm chasing now. This is my surrender. This is my, come on, let's make this our prayer. Here is where I lay it down. You are all I'm chasing now. This is my surrender. Oh, and I'll make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to, and I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Oh.
I forgot to mention that we have a prayer team. So what I'd like to do is this. I'm going to give the benediction, but I know I talked to a couple people. There's some people I think that were wanting some prayer today. So if you're on the prayer team today, if you can just make your way up really quick. I'm going to give a benediction, and then I'm just going to ask the worship team to just play for a couple minutes. If you want to sing a little bit, that's fine. And then if you need prayer, everyone will be dismissed, and if you want to come forward for prayer, we'll be up here to pray with you, and kind of just do the prayer time at the very end today. But I'm just telling, as I think about first service at the end, I talked about the perspective that we have of the Master. And look, there's so many people that have just a bad view of who God is and what he's trying to do in us and through us. He's trying to make us into better people, into the kinds of people that we've been designed and created to be, to really like fire on all cylinders, that kind of thing. But as we were singing this song here, I just had this sense, and I just want to kind of leave us with this thought. You know, I think, man, there are some times where we just think, I don't have much to offer. I don't know if there's someone in the room in particular that has like this, well, I can't sing, not really good with my words, but there's something that the Lord has entrusted to you. And so take that thing and use it for the glory of Jesus. I mean, I don't care what it is. It may not seem like it's a huge thing, but there are all sorts of little ways that you can leverage those things for the glory of God. And you know what? You may not get a lot of notoriety and recognition in this life, but what ultimately matters is when you do see Jesus face to face, is when he says, well done. You did it perfectly. You were awesome. I'm so grateful that you took that little thing that I gave you and you did exactly what I needed you to do with it. We live for the applause of one, not for the accolades of other people. And so, man, let that be your motivation. Not that it doesn't matter what other people do and their talents and their skills it matters what you have. So use it for the glory of Jesus. And I'm telling you, it'll be all worth it on that day when the Master says, my servant's coming. Let's have that kind of approach in life, amen? So this week, may you see the investment of the Master as an invitation. And as you lean into that and as you use whatever it is, the 1 bag of gold, the 20 bags of gold, whatever it is, when you use that, may you see the great joy that comes at serving at the Master's hand. May you see the great transformation and the blessing that comes to you. And may we be found faithful when the Lord returns. And so may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and give you peace. You're dismissed if you want to be prayed for. There's a couple of us up here, and we will see you on Wednesday for Pastor Phil's teaching. God bless. We'll see you. Take care.